everybody, it's Courtney. I just want to let you know that I had some audio issues on my track for this episode. I'm a little quiet, and our wonderful editor, Corey, tried to fix it. Unfortunately, it's still a little muffled. So it will not take away from what it is an otherwise fantastic interview with Dawn Hunt. Just letting y'all know we are fixed the problem. It won't be an issue going forward, and thank you so much for your patience. Enjoy the show.
The path of the witch is so unique.
The gift of witchcraft.
I was able to see, hear, and communicate with
A
spirits.
very personal relationship between a person and spirit. Carnal lust and fun things like that.
Working with different energies with spirits and communicating.
Creating magic.
Powerful ritual and powerful spell.
She's actually sending me in the cold.
The role of the witch is to make change.
Blessed be, y'all. Blessed be.
People ask me like, okay, I'm a witch and I don't know what to do.
20 years ago, 3 young friends realized they were witches.
They scattered to different parts of the world following magic and spirit.
Now, they're back in their hometown to share what they've learned.
Welcome to That Witch Life Podcast, your home for living as a witch in today's world.
I'm so out of sorts today. I don't even know what to do.
Clearly,
she told me that we were going to be doing a Zoom Patreon, and I was like, oh, I should put on makeup and put some Kahlua in my coffee. And I think there's a very good chance that I put too much Kahlua in my coffee. So we are very excited
Did
to
you
have.
say? Hold on. Did you say Kahlua or glue? Because I heard glue, and I'm going to go with
Kahlua.
that.
She said Kahlua.
Glue.
I think you put glue in your coffee. That's all I'm saying.
I think you probably wanted me to put glue in my coffee. There's a difference between what I did and what you're hoping for.
And I also,
but we are very excited to be joined with other members of our Patreon community for a very special holiday food magic episode. And I am your host today, Kanani of That Witch Life Podcast, and I am joined by my fellow co-hosts,
Hilary, and we are falling apart right now.
Already.
Because in classic Kanani style, we started and Kanani sat there smiling. We were like, Kanani, you're hosting.
I know, and I'm Courtney. I'm the other co-host. And listen, Kanani's like, Courtney just told me it was Zoom. We always do our Patreon gatherings by Zoom.
I didn't realize it was a Patreon gathering. I don't pay attention. You know that.
We only do recordings on the weekends for Patreon community. Like, I don't know where you've been. And this is like,
and it literally says in the invite, FYI, everyone, it says Patreon monthly gathering. Dawn,
and
the kitchen witch.
She calls me 3 minutes before, and I'm like, see that? And it's when one of them calls me 3 minutes before recording, it's usually an emergency, like, oh shit, something's gone on, we have to reschedule that. And Connie goes, hey, are we recording video on this? Yes, it's a weekend episode. It's a Patreon gathering. Of course we are. She goes, okay, I'll go put on makeup. And then, of course, she was late. Then she forgot she was hosting.
Okay. Maniac.
I can't.
It's what I bring to the table.
Maniac.
This is the chaos that I bring to the table.
You want to know what it's like?
We are so excited because Dawn is here to fix all the things and talk to us about holiday food magic. And for those of our listeners who do not know about our dear friend Dawn, who we absolutely love, she is from Cucina Aurora and has been a sponsor with us for years and years and years. And we are absolutely obsessed with all the things that she makes.
Dawn Aurora Hunt, owner and CEO of Cucina Aurora Kitchen Witchery, has been teaching and writing on the topics of kitchen witchery and spiritual nutrition since 2010, when she started her own company making gourmet foods with a dash of magic and a heaping helping of positive vibes as the main ingredients. With simple ingredients and the power of intention, Hunt teaches people how to cook simple meals in a mindful way to help achieve spiritual goals. Incorporating magic and energy work into food, she has grown her brand to reach people from all faiths and spiritual backgrounds. Her latest books include A Kitchen Witch's Guide to Love and Romance, Kitchen Witchcraft for Beginners. When she's not writing, cooking, or hosting popular podcast Conversational Witchcraft, she can be found drinking coffee and snuggling black cats with her husband in their New Hampshire home, which nobody believes you have time to do that with all the other stuff that you do.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, right. When are you cuddling?
I'm not going to lie. That bio is way better than me just talking about how much I love you for 4 minutes.
Thank you so much. It sounds so fancy when you say it all together. And I'm like, first I need to apologize because I have a terrible cold, which I'm sure you can hear. I'm really sorry. But no, the only time I have to snuggle my cats is like right after this. Like, after I'm done here. That's what I'm doing for the rest of the day. I'm going to be drinking tea, kicking this cold's ass, and snuggling my cats on my couch, watching Harry Potter. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to do today after this.
I mean, that's a productive day.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for being here. And thank you for being so damn supportive. Can I curse on this?
Dawn.
Okay, good. Because I have a fucking
Have you
terrible
Curse as
fucking
much as you fucking want to. That's what you can do.
I just want to make sure. Speaking of
like,
I'll
cats,
curse extra if
Dawn,
it makes you feel more comfortable.
Have you been on this podcast before?
yeah, but this is different. Usually it's recorded.
Fair.
I want to make
but we
sure
leave
it's
all that
okay.
in. Yes,
You know?
it's fine.
Speaking of black cats, he heard me talking and now
He
hang
was
on,
like, I'm here. He's like, you summoned me.
there you go.
Oh my God, he's so cute.
This is Ollivander.
Oh,
Say hi,
Oh my
Ollivander.
God,
cute.
he's so cute.
He hates being held.
So
He's
cute.
like,
Well, besides having a cold, which sucks, what else have you been up to? You've been coming out with all kinds of new stuff and doing all kinds of new things with Cucina Aurora. What's been going on?
Oh my goodness. You've caught me in the middle of the madness, right? So from
Yeah, it's
probably
right before the
August.
holidays.
yeah, probably August through the holidays. Like I don't sleep, I don't stop. I run on caffeine and foul language. That's pretty much all I do. But we've had a crazy year. We came out with tomato sauce, which I'm really, really proud of the tomato sauce.
You should be.
I know it sounds
so good. It is so good.
thanks.
So good. We already have more on our way to us. So
Thank you. I'm really proud of it. And I have a second flavor I'm working on. It should be ready. Oh, look, she's got a black cat too. I have another flavor I'm working on. So that was the roasted garlic. And then I'm working on a sweet basil. And I should have that ready for pretty much December 1st. So
oh my gosh,
that's exciting.
So excited.
We have been kicking ass with the coffee line. Basically, like everything that I do at Cucina Aurora is like, I'm a snob about food and magic. And if I can't find what I like, I'm just going to fucking make it myself.
That's right.
You know, like that's really it. And I've been traveling back to traveling, you know, after COVID. Since COVID, I haven't really done a lot of traveling and shows and workshops and going places. But for this past year, I've been back on the road and it's killing me. So obviously that's what got this cold. I was at a show in Connecticut last week and it's a lot. But yeah, it's been great. Listen, hanging out with, you know, doing my own podcast, which has been thanks to you guys, right? Like I can't thank you enough for your inspiration and all of your love and support and helping me, you know, start that. And that's been doing really well. I mean, I'm not like That Witch Life popular, but I mean, it's going good. I think that's it in terms of what's new with me. Yeah, that's what's
Awesome.
new.
We actually just put in an order recently for the pasta sauces because the three of us can't fucking get enough of it. We were hooked on the oils. Then I'm completely hooked on the coffee, and now you've like you know ruined us by now the pasta sauces. We're just like absolutely. I make kind of the same. I always use a jarred sauce, and I always add sausage, and then my spaghetti that I make for my kids is very basic, and I use that, and they actually went, "Mom, it's really good tonight. What did you use?" Like there was they noted they were like
this is
my kids
edible.
noticed nothing. We're like that was really good, and I was like.
It was really
funny.
funny
Buying
because
sauce like
I
that
sent
was
you
it
guys-
was a noticeable experience.
I sent you guys samples, right? And I sent you
Yes,
samples
you
when it
did.
first came out. I sent them out. And I'm on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast. And at like midnight, I got this text message with pictures of plates of pasta.
Yeah.
And this message was like, this shit is fucking amazing. He said we need to have this all the time. And I was like, I didn't have the number saved in my phone. And I was like, who the fuck is sending me? What? Who is it? I was like, Justin, my husband. I was like, who is this? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, I have no idea. It literally, Courtney, it took me a day and a half to figure out it was you. I was like, oh my God. And then I saw that you posted it on Facebook or Instagram or something. And I was like, oh, it's the same picture. It's Courtney.
Yeah, no, seriously.
I love that so much. And she accuses me of stalking people. See, I
don't
clearly she's
accuse.
worse.
I don't accuse you. You out yourself, and then you tell me people
You
that I
out
accuse
yourself.
you. But you out
It was
yourself
really
as a
funny.
stalker. But what happened was
What happened was
what happened was
what happened was
I had made this pasta for my husband, and my husband, being Polish Italian, is like super picky about tomato sauces and things. Like, we've never used a jarred sauce because it just makes him angry most of the time. And I said, well, let's give this a try. And he's like, this is really good. This is really good. He never does this. After he cleaned up the kitchen, he walks out and pauses in the dining room, and he says, I am under Dawn's spell. And I used to think that the only woman who
That's so
could
cute.
kill my husband was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because my husband's got a huge crush on her. And I was like, AOC is the only one who could steal my man. But now now I feel AOC and Dawn are my competition now. If Dawn showed up with all the tomato sauce, it was like, hey, honey, he'd be like, I don't know. I'm feeling conflicted. What do I do with my life now? I'd be like, yeah, I understand. I mean, whatever.
I mean, Dawn is competition for anyone I'm with, so I understand. I support
you guys
your
are
husband
you're
in this.
really
she's
you're
an
really
argument.
too kind.
She's
You're
an
really,
argument
just
for-
because you're only seeing this part of me.
She's an argument for polygamy, big time. Like, well, I mean, for the right person with the right tomato sauce, polygamy could work out great.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first. It wouldn't be the first time we've been propositioned by another couple. Like many times, people have come up to us and be like, "So, are you guys poly? Are you guys?
You are at the Ren Fair, after all.
You guys, what are you into? Are you?" And we're like, "Oh, we're monogamous." Like, and people are like, "Oh man," like, I appreciate that so much.
Damn it.
But the tomato sauce was like, and it was such a work of love. And if we want to relate it back to Magick, right? Like, obviously, I'm Italian. Tomatoes are my favorite food. They are a love food. Specifically, when we're talking about the energy of tomato, we're talking about the energy of giving and receiving love. They help us to accept the love people are desperately trying to give us, right? So when somebody says to you, you are amazing, you are beautiful, you are all these wonderful things, our instinct tends to be like, you're out of your mind, no, absolutely not. The energy of tomato helps us to take that energy in and really hear the compliment and really think, oh, maybe I am deserving of this love, right? And growing up Italian, I mean, tomato sauce is what we eat. I mean, like, if you slit my veins, I'd probably bleed tomato sauce or olive oil, like one or the other would come out of me. And so this is something I've wanted to do forever. I mean, for at least a decade, I've been like, I really need to figure out how to take my grandmother's recipe, my family recipe, and be able to jar it. And that's very, very difficult due to the science behind scaling things up, right? And if we take the magic part out of it, like, how do I maintain the quality, the integrity of the ingredients and the food? And then, of course, being able to cook it in a way that I can still put my intention in, because when you're dealing with things on this scale, it's really hard to be able to have the level of control to be able to go do your magical work in this kind of arena, right? So it took me a really long time to even get comfortable with the idea of doing it. And after many, many years, finally found someone with a facility who would let me come and cook 300 gallons of tomato sauce the way I wanted to cook it, in that space, but still in a safe and industrial, commercial, sanitary way. And that I was able to go and do that. So I was able to do, my own visualization and my own energy techniques in this space that is a commercial space, and be able to be there and chop all the onions and chop all the basil, pour the wine in, say my little incantations before it went on the line. So it was a really magical process to begin with. And that process itself, the finding the place and the actual R&D and the making of everything, took a solid 8 months. So when I tell you this was like a labor of love, it 100% was. And I think with everything that we make at Cucina, I think the spiritual part of it, the energetic part of it comes through, and that's what people resonate with. Like, yeah, it tastes delicious, but your heart is like, oh, it's like home, and that's the whole point. That's where the magic lies.
I love that you talk about how I didn't even realize that you were able to do all of that stuff when this stuff is being made, that you were able to be present and you're actually the one physically chopping the ingredients and putting the ingredients together. I just thought that this was, at some point it's your recipe that you've cultivated and created and put love into, but you're actually the one physically making these things. Like, that's incredible. That makes me even more excited. The fact that I love this sauce, like, it makes it even more meaningful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's probably to my, the detriment to my business acumen that I insist that I must be there, because no one is going to put energy into things the way I do. And I mean that in a spiritual way, right? In our industry, and it's difficult, right? Because I am a kitchen witch and my business is based out of my spiritual belief. And I'm very, very staunch on the fact that things must be done still in a spiritual way. And that element of energetic work and visualization still has to happen, even as we're getting bigger. And like over here on the East Coast, you can find our products in Whole Foods and places like that. I don't want to lose my integrity as a kitchen witch, right? And that's hard for me because when I first started out, people were like, you should just call it Cucina Aurora. You should drop kitchen witchery. And I said, no, absolutely not. I'm a kitchen witch. I'm not dropping it, and then, well, you should, what they call co-pack, which is an industry term that means, like you said, Kanani, you give your recipe to somebody that has a facility and they just make it. I tried co-packing once a long, long time ago, and it was a horrible nightmare of a situation. And like our product came back with bugs in it and I had to throw everything away. And I was like, I cannot, I fucking cannot. I cannot. My face is on the label. Okay. If I'm telling you I'm fucking making it, I'm fucking making it. And I'm going to do it the way that I see fit. So I'm going to put my energy in, and I'm going to be the person that's doing as much as I possibly can to still maintain that sort of like safety and regulatory guidelines. But putting my hands on a cauldron, and it literally is a cauldron, right? These in particular, when we're talking about the sauce, it is a kettle, a 300-gallon kettle that takes up an entire room, and it heats up and it bubbles and it churns. And I'm literally putting my hands on that kettle and putting my energy into it and infusing it with love and standing there for a solid 5 minutes as this thing is whirling and bubbling and spinning and going, love, 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 joy, 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 bring love, all of those sort of things as this is happening in a commercial space. And there are people that work there that are like, what is this fucking girl doing? She's out of her goddamn mind. And I'm like, I don't care, man. I'm here and I'm doing it my way. But it's really, really important to me that the integrity of the spiritual work stays in what we're doing as a business.
So is that across the board with all of your mixes and your oils? You're the one that's creating every single item, or?
So I have help now. Thank God.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. But besides the sauce, everything is made in my own space, my own warehouse, my own facility. I say we because it's myself and then my production manager who's been working with me for over 10 years. We do visualization techniques. We do meditation techniques while everything is being made. I'm grateful that I can step away a lot of times and she can do those things, but she's still doing that work. And I pretty much inspect, touch, if you want to use the word bless or infuse, pretty much everything that comes through the warehouse, even though I'm not physically making every single thing anymore. Thank God. I can't do it.
I was going to say, I can't imagine that one person can't do all of that.
Yeah. I was like, there's no way that's possible. Like you have way too much production for that. But like, still, it kind of blows my mind that you are as physically involved as you are, considering how much I know stuff like this on the back end is exhausting and tedious. So it's like, I'm really, because this is, you have to run the business on top of doing all that. So I'm just blown away by you.
Well, that's why I'm sick. I have a cold. I'm exhausted. No, I appreciate, but I'm also a control freak, right? So you take a spiritual person, you take a witch, and then you put her in a position of leadership, and she's like, "Girl, I'm gonna do it my way, and I'm gonna make sure that it's done to my specifications." And that's to my detriment in some cases for sure. But it's really important to me that the spiritual part of things and the integrity of the ingredients themselves, because so much of the magic is in the ingredient, right? So much of what I talk about, what I teach about is understanding and communing with the ingredient, the food, the actual physical thing that's coming out that the earth is giving us. And how is that processed? And how do we relate to it? And what energy does that give us? So these are important things to me as a person, and thereby important things to me in terms of what products we're creating.
I'm feeling like I want to do a Mr. Rogers style video where it's like, hey, let's see how a tomato sauce is made, where, they show, go into the factory and show.
Yes, and it has Dawn with the cauldron. I love that idea.
And say, this is Dawn. She makes tomato sauce magical. Can you say magical? Like, just go through. I'm really feeling the need to do this. And so I need PBS to sponsor that Witch Life trip to New Hampshire so we can make this video. I'll make it. We just need airfare. And snacks. And $10,000.
Yes.
For each of us.
Yes.
Each.
And our pets.
Yeah, obviously.
I've been telling Dawn one of these days I absolutely have to meet her in person. And if when we're able to finally meet in person, if I'm able to actually consume her food, that would just be all the more better. But at some point we have to meet Dawn in person because it's driving me crazy. We've talked and we love her so much that I'm like, I can't believe we haven't gotten to hang out yet.
Just fucking come. Just come to the East Coast, come to New Hampshire. I have a spare room. You'll stay here and I'll feed you lasagna and it all will be well.
I will do that. I will do. I'm just going to show up one day. My kids are just going to piss me off and I'm just going to be like, you know what? Peace out. And I'm just going to show up on your doorstep.
I don't see how that's a problem. I'm not following how that could be an issue. It's sounding better and better as I'm thinking it out through in my head. So I think that this is absolutely going to be happening. But how are you? I mean, you're so busy and with everything going on and with all the bazaars and festivals and things like that. Like, how are you trying to prepare for the holidays this year? This is a great question. And I think that, and forgive me, I don't know if you can hear Ollivander. He's screaming because he wants to play. But this is a great question. And I think that I'm not unique at all in my busyness and the overwhelm that the holidays tend to bring. I think all of us tend to think we're prepared and then we're not prepared. And whether you're a mom or a business owner or you work a full-time job or whatever your life is, I feel like no matter how prepared you are, the holidays tend to sneak up on you. I spent a lot of the COVID years being disappointed, right, that we couldn't gather with friends. And that was difficult. And now we're back to gathering with friends. And I feel the enormous pressure of, oh, crap. Everybody's looking to me to make the meal and host this and do that and trying to juggle that along with my life, my spirituality, my business. It's very, very difficult. So believe it or not, I'm preparing now. On the business side of things, we're doing this very humongous European style market that opens on Black Friday and we stay open through New Year's. It's outdoors, it's beautiful, it's amazing, but it's a huge undertaking. So in the midst of doing all that, I've decided I'm going to host Thanksgiving because that's what we do every year.
Oh my God.
Right? I don't know. She's fucking nuts. And so I decided this year what I'm doing is we always do a theme. I'm doing casserole giving. So what every dish is going to be in a casserole dish. I'm going to bake it ahead of time and throw it in the freezer. And so on Thanksgiving Day, all I have to do is heat it up in my sterno tray and everybody can enjoy everything. And it takes the pressure off of me. One thing that I struggle with, and I think that everybody listening probably can identify with this in some way, is the need to be perfect, the need to meet other people's expectations in terms of I'm hosting or I'm going here and I need to be able to, make the best thing and impress all of my friends. And, I have to have my makeup on and look a certain way and everything has to be great. And then I had this realization that the people that I get to spend time with, that I am grateful enough to be able to cook for, these people love me and love spending time with me regardless of how perfect I am. And so that has allowed me a little bit of freedom this year to say, I don't have to be perfect. They want to come and spend time together. I could serve macaroni and cheese from a box and they would still be really happy to spend time together. So that's allowed me a little bit to kind of lighten up my load. And now I'm going to tell you what I'm making for Thanksgiving. And you're going to be like, that's not a fucking light load.
Yeah. I was like, bullshit. You're going to lighten your load. I was like, no,
I was going to say what
you're going to list this off.
Lightning is going to be, our dream.
I'm like, you're going to list this off and we're going to be like, cool. So like, I guess I have no load then comparatively. So let's hear it.
I'm making lasagna, but I'm using my jarred sauce.
Yes. Okay.
Easy peasy, right? I make this thing. It's a Thanksgiving bake. So it's basic. I used my mushroom risotto for the base layer. And then I shred turkey, put cranberry sauce and stuffing on top, layer that together and throw it in the oven.
That sounds so good.
And again, it's like, for me, that's fucking easy as shit. Like it's so easy.
Yeah, that's not bad actually. So it's like, it's the mushroom risotto mix.
Mushroom risotto,
turkey, cranberry sauce,
stuffing.
Right.
And I in the mushroom risotto, I put green beans right in there. Oh
my God, I want to make that.
I'll put like a scoopful of cream cheese just to make it a little creamy. And then you have all these sort of Thanksgiving flavors, but it's elevated and it's all in one dish. And so I literally made it last night and I put it in the freezer. So it's done. I don't have to think about it. And then I'm also making an enchilada bake because I think we should have something Mexican. I don't know. I love Mexican food. So I always have something Mexican.
So good.
That's just always welcome. Yes.
And then I'm going to make a shepherd's pie. And that's it. That's what I'm making. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not. They're all really simple. And they're all still like, you have your lasagna, that's your traditional Italian dish. So that connects me with ancestor magic. That connects me with that love energy from the tomato. And then I have my traditional Thanksgiving flavors, which to be fair, can I just for a second be like really honest? I don't care for like the secular idea of Thanksgiving because we all know now that was fucking bullshit. So like I would skip all the Thanksgiving foods because I eat that kind of food all the time in the fall and winter. Like I'm always making chicken or cranberries or, applesauce, those fall flavors, putting them under that umbrella of, the first Thanksgiving, I'm like, this is such bullshit, but like my guests wanted. Okay. So I'm going to get off that soapbox. And then of course I have to have something Mexican and it's going to be with a tomatillo and a little bit of jalapeno. So that's for me, that's passionate energy. And that's going to bring in a little bit of passion and fire into our meal. And then the shepherd's pie is really a kinship and grounding dish from the beef and the potatoes. So I'm kind of like hitting all those notes and I'm doing it in the best possible way to make it easier on myself because I'm doing it so far ahead of time. I don't know if that answers any of your questions, but that's what
that is phenomenal. One of my favorite things that I've always wanted to do, and I haven't done it yet, probably won't happen this year. Maybe it'll happen next year. I've always loved the idea of doing a Friendsgiving where everyone just brings like a thing. And so it's more of a celebration of friendship and of just being together. And because I agree when it comes to Thanksgiving, the whole concept behind it just makes me want to retch. But I love being with my family. I love eating to excess with my family and just being together and just knowing that you're just going to spend the entire day doing literally nothing other than munching on food and just being together. And so, I love that idea. And the fact that you are taking the time and the self-care to make these things ahead so that you can freeze them so that then you can actually enjoy that time with your friends and family when you're together. Like, I think that's amazing. That's like That's next level. Like when you're not only taking care of other people, but you are also doing it in a way that also honors and takes care of yourself. So I think seriously, kudos to you.
Thanks. I'm really trying. And I have to say, we do Friendsgiving because we're here and our families are in New York. And then this kind of started with some friends that didn't have anywhere to go for Thanksgiving because their families are far away. So they go for Christmas instead of Thanksgiving. Oh, we'll just do that. And now that's grown. There's like 8 or 10 of us that they all come over and they're always like, oh, we'll bring something. And I'm like, no, you don't bring something to my house.
You're like not allowed.
No. But to be fair, a lot of that isn't just because, again, I'm a control freak, but it's because I have a lot of food allergies and my guests have a lot of food allergies.
Yeah, it's too complicated.
Right. So it becomes too complicated where I can make something that's going to taste good that everybody can eat and no one feels left out. I think that's really a big part of it. But I want to lean into something you said, Kanani, about being able to gather with friends and family. I think there's a new kind of way of thinking about Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, and it's always been about gratitude, right? And gratitude is such a huge thing. And going back to, again, the pandemic years and saying, we're all so upset because we weren't able to gather. And now we're able to gather and we're all feeling that pressure, or I'm feeling that pressure, right? Separating myself from the pressure and saying, I am so grateful to have people to cook for. I am so grateful to have people to gather with, right? And encompassing the day and the time spent in gratitude and grounding it in gratitude and the cheesy, oh, what are you grateful for? What are you thankful for? This is your mama. Nobody does that. And if they do, it feels very, very forced. But if you're able to sort of, as you're beginning your cooking or as you're beginning your planning, because for me, obviously the planning for big meals, whether it's Thanksgiving or Yule or Samhain, whatever it is, it starts way in advance as I plan things out, as I make my shopping lists, all those little invisible tasks that we do to prepare ourselves for these very ritualistic meal experiences. If I ground that process in gratitude, instead of starting with it as a stressful thing, and say, I'm so grateful that there are people that want to spend time with me. I am so grateful that I have the means. My husband and I didn't always have the means or the space to have people gather with us or to be able to cook food, or be able to buy quality food that we could share with people. So what is it that you have? What is it that you are sharing? Where is it that you're going if you're going to visit family? Are you bringing a gift of food to someone? All of this really needs to be rooted in gratitude for the true magic and the true spiritual part of the process to have space to breathe. Does that make sense?
Makes so much sense. And thank you for saying that. I think that's, especially if we're a lot of those of us that might be gathering with under complicated circumstances, that there's still space for things. And I especially I appreciate where you say that, try to remove the desire for perfection, because who's selling us that is the corporations, the magazines, that this is what your Thanksgiving should look like. The best Thanksgivings I've had were when I crammed 20 people into my apartment and we're eating off paper plates on the floor. And I'm having to chase people out of my kitchen unless they're smoking weed. They're allowed to smoke weed because that's the one window that they could get close to. And I was just like, if you're not smoking pot, I need you out of my kitchen. And I'm like, this is the best thing.
That is the best.
I'm trying to envision kind of what you're picturing, because the picture that you paint of like how this is going to go, especially, like I said, in my head, when I envision the holidays and cooking, I'm in the kitchen. I am sweating in the kitchen and everyone else is, eating, and I'm checking in and they're having fun and I'm making sure they're having fun, but I'm sweating in the kitchen. So what are your plans kind of now that you've done that amazing step to make this easier for you by pre-making the food? What is Dawn going to do that day? What fun things are you going to be? What are the fun things that are going to be happening outside of you having to be sweating in a kitchen?
Well, that's where the crazy control freak workaholic entrepreneur comes in, because crazy entrepreneur workaholic Dawn, she has to set up this Christmas village from November 19th to November 23rd. And then it's a holiday and I'm going to have everybody over. And then the next day I have to work again. So, the hope is that Thanksgiving morning, I will be on my couch with my cats, drinking a cup of coffee, watching the stupid parade, because I love the stupid parade, right?
Yay,
Like just the
parade.
dumbness
Damn it, I love
of
that
it.
parade.
I love it. So it makes me cry
I love
when
it
Santa
so
comes out
much.
every time. Like I'm such a nerd. But
I love
you
that
know,
damn parade.
like I love the damn parade. It's so dumb, and I love everything about its stupidness. And then there's always like a puppy show after. Like I love it so much. But you know, what does things look like around my house at this time of year? It's a mess. And that kind of goes right into the Yule season, right? So then it becomes about, I bake cookies. I mean, this is a holiday cooking episode, right? So a huge part of my holiday traditions is baking Christmas cookies, baking Yule cookies. It's the first thing I remember doing with my grandma when I was really little. That was very ritualistic, right? You only use these special pans and you only use these special cookie cutters. And here are all the old recipes and like my great grandmother's handwriting. And this was very ritualistic magic. It's the first thing I remember doing as a child. That felt so special in the kitchen. So I kind of have those traditions. So every week or every weekend, or if I have a day off, so I have to kind of look at my schedule because I'm working a lot, but it might be every Monday or every Tuesday leading from Thanksgiving to Christmas Eve, where I'll be baking a batch or 2 batches of cookies. And then I make these humongous platters and I give them to all of my friends. I drive them around as I'm driving around town, or maybe I'm going to the pharmacy or I have to go to the bank or something. I'm like, oh, so-and-so's house is over there. I'm just going to drop this off and I'll just leave it on their porch. And I'll say,
I was going to ask, I'm like, so where do these cookies go and how do I get on this list?
There's like a little note. And I'm like, from your favorite kitchen witch, and it just drive away. Like I don't knock or anything. I just leave them out there. Because I'm such a nerd. Like these things make me really happy. And then I just stress myself out that people are going to be disappointed if I can't get to it. Or last year I made 15 kinds of cookies and this year I only made 14 kinds of cookies, and somebody's going to notice that I left out the gingerbread goddesses. And I'll make myself crazy about it. But when I start to spiral like that, like so many of us do in the kitchen, and so many of us do around the holidays, I bring it back to gratitude, and I bring it back to, what is this time of year about? This time of year is about gratitude, thoughtfulness, going inward. Why am I doing this? Why am I baking all of these cookies? Why do I want to cook for all the people I love? Because this is what we do at this time of year. We huddle together. We keep each other close. We keep each other warm, figuratively and literally, so that we can get through the cold months and then get back into springtime when the light comes back and kind of like restart. So this is all about recharge. It's very connective for me to do this type of cooking, to do this type of baking, because I do it alone. And although I say I do it for other people, I do it for myself. Yeah. It feels so good for me to take out my grandmother's old cookie cutters, and her old recipes, and just start. And I'll spend a whole day. Justin says I bake on a binge, because I'll just wake up at 8 a.m. and I'm like, I need to bake. I have to bake right now, So these things, these processes become ritual. Then that becomes the magic, when we recognize the ritualistic nature of these things that we do. We do them every year, right? We do them don't you look forward to something like you're going to go to your mom's house or your grandma or aunt's house, and there's a dish that you only have then, right?
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a ritual around that I think we can't lose sight of that either.
I love
that.
I love the, bringing it back to ritual and gratitude is such a good, it's just a good way to because it is chaos. The holidays are chaos, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, as Courtney said, there's like a lot of complicated emotions a lot of times that come around the holidays, whether you have a complicated relationship with your family or grief or whatever it is, you know. And then outside of that, everyone is in that vibrational state where everyone's like racing around trying to get it all done. So it always feels crazy. But I also think that, you know, I think it's so nice when you can just go, you know what, actually, like, I mean, I love cooking for people. Like, I love being able, it's like such an act of love to provide like this, not just like comforting food experience, but also just like caretaking experience. Like, we get to like, people get to just come over and relax and enjoy and get a break from their hectic lives. And yes, that means that for me, it's a little hectic when I'm trying to do it. But for me, like, the ability to do it and the ability to like contribute to it is such a nice, it's like so worth it. And so I think going back to that gratitude. And then I'm a big fan of ritual being like integrated into specifically tasks that we don't like cleaning the house, you know, doing the dishes, like whatever. I mean, like cooking, it's why I love doing kitchen magic, because, you know, it's like you're infusing your magic and energy into every little thing, which means that it's actually like threaded throughout so many areas of your life. I used to be the type of person that would do like grand, you know, like, oh, I'm going to do this big ritual in this space because I'm extra. I'm like a performance artist. I really like, you know, doing like big, elaborate, you know, whatever things. But I think there is something so practical, but also like deep in having small tasks be ritualistic and having them be infused with your magic. When I'm cleaning and I'm going, instead of being like, oh, you know, like you know, like being irritated, which I still do sometimes, let's be honest, like no one has a good day every day, but like, you know, but when you can go, you know what, actually, I'm going to use this as a way to like cleanse the energy of my entire house. Or when I'm cooking, I'm going to use this as a way to like manifest something for me, or infuse something in it to give to someone else who I know this would make feel really good. It shifts, it reframes that task as something that's magical and not like some mundane, like arbitrary thing. So I love that. And I think that it's true. I mean, the holidays are amazing and hard as fuck at the same time. And I think that reminder of that, like of the joy that we get out of the holidays, but also the joy that we get to give out of the holidays is like it's such a good way to make sure that we're not losing ourselves in the chaos.
Literally everyone knows this podcast runs on blood, sweat, tears, and jasmine pearl tea. But now get ready, witches. Our beautiful friends at the Jasmine Pearl Tea Company have some new blends for this summer.
Oh my God. Seriously, everyone knows how obsessed I am with tea, and I am extra obsessed with Jasmine Pearl. Fortune's Fool, which is a pu'er tea for those looking for a more sophisticated tea, is insane. I am in love with it. Plus, it has pigs on the wrapper, which makes it extra amazing.
I need all of that tea.
They're insane. And everyone knows that coffee is my jam. One of the ways that you can get me to drink tea is when you have some sort of a mint tea. And the Northwest mint is absolutely fantastic. It's something that you can make in a large brew and you can put in your fridge so that you can drink it cold during hot months. And it is absolutely marvelous.
Yeah, and also the blackberry fig, which can be enjoyed either hot or iced. I mean, it's the end of the summer. Iced tea is still the thing, but the nights are getting cooler. And so this is a really great one to have around during the transition from summer to autumn. Also, you've got the equinox. It's a great herbal for this coming month and the change in the seasons. And it contains herbs that can be sometimes beneficial for those of us with uteruses.
You really, really need to go check out these teas at thejasminepearl.com. Save 10% with coupon code WITCH2023. That's WITCH2023. And you get free shipping on orders over $35. So get those orders in.
Thank you so much to the Jasmine Pearl Tea Company for being an episode sponsor. Hey everybody, we are super excited to announce Llewellyn's holiday sale. You can head over to Llewellyn.com. It is their biggest sale of the year. You can save up to 15% off on literally hundreds of books, tarot and oracle decks, pendulums, journals, and so much more. Whether you are looking for the perfect stocking stuffer, ideas for a homemade holiday wreath, or a new read to add to your to-be-read pile, these discounts make shopping easy on your wallet. Just head to llewellyn.com. That's LLEWELLYN.com. This is their biggest sale of the year. Check it out. You're going to have so much stuff for you, your friends. You're going to have a blast.
There's a question in the chat that's really very good. So this is from one of our Patreon members. What do you do when you don't have a bunch of time to cook from home to make it magical?
That is a very good question. A couple of things. Okay. If you don't have a lot of time, first, don't stress. If this is a situation where maybe you have to bring something somewhere, or you don't have a lot of time, you have to make something quick for yourself around the table, it is okay to start with some pre-made items. It is okay to buy, grilled chicken cutlets that are already made for you at the supermarket that you're going to chop up and put in something else. That's okay. Like, you work with what you have and what you have the ability to get, right? I mean, I wish that I could afford to buy, all organic, all perfect, all everything all the time. That's not reality. So you work with what you have. So that's the first thing. See where you can cut corners without cutting standards, right? So still make sure that the food is as fresh as it possibly could be. Still make sure the food is as healthy and as close to earth as it could possibly be. But don't stress complicated food. Don't stress complicated recipes. Throwing together a beautiful salad with, wintry or fall kinds of things literally will take you 5 minutes. It's the thought process of trying to figure out what to do that takes you a long time, right? It's not the actual doing of the thing. It's what do I do? How do I figure it out? Well, now I have to think about it. What recipe do I make? I'm not sure that all that. If you're just like, oh, look, I've got this grilled chicken and a bag of lettuce, and this apple looks really good. Oh, by the way, I also have walnuts that I bought last week. You know what? I'm going to chop everything up and put it in a salad. Boom, done. If you overthink it, that's where you're going to get caught up with time. So the first thing I would say is don't stress it. Start with what you have, and don't be afraid to cut corners. All that goes to if you have to do something at someone else's house. As you said, Hilary, sometimes there are complications around what we have to do, who we have to see, and where we have to go at the holidays. That might be a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes I use the escape of I'm going to cook something in someone else's kitchen to allow myself the space of not necessarily having to socialize. Okay, just the truth. So if this is a situation where you have to go to someone else's home, do what you can to bring things with you that are easy to put together, right? Instead of buying a brick of cheese that you have to slice, buy it pre-sliced. It's still cheese. Cheese is still for joy. It's still joyful energy. So if you're making something with positive intention and love and gratitude and all that, it's going to come through, and the food is still going to be magically infused and energetically infused because of how you prepare it, not because you cut a corner. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
So let's throw another scenario out here. You don't have time to cook. You're not the one that's cooked the food. You're bringing the food.
Takeout's great.
You're going to someone's house. How could you?
You can bless the takeout.
How could you do that in a way that is magical?
Meaning you're eating someone else's food that's been prepared for you. Okay.
Meaning I'm buying stuff at the store and I'm bringing it to your house because I just don't have the time to cook. But I'm bringing this food to you and I want it to be magical. So how can you infuse your magic into this food even though you didn't prepare it yourself?
So you're bringing the ingredients and you're going to throw it together when you get to my house, or you're bringing the ingredients, expect me to cook it for you?
No. Like it's cooked. Like I have a pie. I'm bringing a pie. Here's a pie. I bought it at Safeway. Here's my pie.
Easy peasy. Easy peasy. You're going to, for lack of a better term, you're going to bless or infuse the food with your own energy, right? So we do this when we go out to eat. If the food comes to the table And I literally put my hands on both sides of the plate and I do my own little incantation and my own little gratitude message. But think about like, people who are Christian maybe saying grace over their meal. Similarly, I'm going to, maybe do Reiki over the meal, or I'm going to infuse it with the energy of gratitude for wherever this food came from, for the guy who cooked it in the back. Hey, you bought a big pumpkin pie at Costco. Awesome. Pumpkins are goddess energy. And that guy at Costco, he kicked the shit out of making this pie. This is the best pie ever. This is the most delicious pie. Great. And I'm grateful because I didn't have to pay. I didn't have to cook this pie, but it's still full of goddess energy because it's still pumpkin. Right. So, okay, maybe I'm going to sit there and I'm on my drive over to my person's house that I'm going to have dinner over. Putting my hand on that pumpkin pie and I'm saying, I'm grateful to the Great Mother for this beautiful pumpkin pie. And I infuse this with the energy of the goddess as for all of us to share in her light. And I'm also super grateful for the guy who made this pie so I didn't have to. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated, especially if you start working with food ingredients and you understand or you commune with them and then you know their energies, right? All you have to do is channel your energy a little bit to turn that up, and it's already there for you. It's all, you bring the magic. The magic doesn't come from where you're putting this together or whatever. Again, I want to say, if you are going the route of takeout or pre-made, there's nothing wrong with that, but still stay as high quality as you can afford that feels comfortable for you. Stay as close to the earth as something, McDonald's, not the way to go if you can get a really good meal somewhere else that you can afford that's better quality. McDonald's is further away from earth because of all the processing that happens to that food. Whereas if you went to, a local place that's using local meat, theirs is closer to earth. So that's what I mean when I say closer to earth. So takeout's an option, always an option. Give yourself a fucking break. That's what I would say.
And
sometimes
let me just put the sponsorship plug in there. Just get yourself a few jars of Cucina Aurora tomato sauce.
I know.
Which
I was literally
not only is it really tasty, it's already pre-infused for you. You got Don do all the work.
And all of the risottos and
up to there. I mean, if Kanani can do it on a weeknight, anybody
can.
There's another question we have in the chat, Hilary, if you don't mind, then we can come back. Is that one of our Patreon members said, speaking of being close to the earth, we are processing chickens today in our farm, literally as I type this. They've laid eggs for us, and now there'll be a traditional Acadian meal called rapure. I hope I pronounced that correctly. In English, rappy pie, which I'm going to call it rappy pie because that's really cute. I'd love some suggestions on how to incorporate more magic into the process. FYI, rappy pie is a bake with potatoes that you squeeze all the water out of and then adds boiling chicken broth to reconstitute them. And the chicken is shredded and prepared with onions in summer savory with an OU because this person's Canadian in a light gravy.
So I don't know who that is, but I'm coming over for dinner. I really think I need to see this.
Dawn, you know who
right? That sounds delicious. I think we're going to need a picture.
I'll be coming over for dinner so I can inspect this because I can't give you a real answer.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to have personal experience.
I need to really commune with these ingredients to be able to tell you. Well, again, I would look at this and I would break it down per ingredient, right? We know potatoes are for grounding. You're squeezing all the water out of them, which is amazing because you're going to just be left with all that delicious starch. So I guess I'm a little fuzzy. Do you want to know how to make the process of making this dish more magical or the process of the chickens and the eggs more magical?
Sounds like the chicken part. Yeah.
Sounds like the chicken
processing of the chicken.
Or perhaps the whole the start to finish.
To finish. I mean,
this person wants to come off mute and explain. You're welcome to.
My guess is going to be like start to finish, right? And you're probably already doing these things because I'm pretty sure I know who this is.
Oh yeah, you do.
I totally know that. So you're probably already doing these things. For me, the respect that you have for your animals that you're raising is the very first thing that is important. Which is why when I am buying meat or animal products of any kind, I do try to make sure that they are local, that they are, I'm very lucky because I live in a rural part of New Hampshire, and sometimes I am able to get, local chickens, local eggs. I only buy local beef if I buy beef at all, and pork as well. So I know like how they're raised. I know how they are processed. I know the people who care for them in life, and that energy of how you care for something in life and then how it is sacrificed so that it can then give life is incredibly important. And that's the first step. Eggs are easy because eggs are for fertility and prosperity and all that jazz. So if you've got all these eggs, I would simply do a fertility and a prosperity incantation over them. I don't know how you're storing them, but I may do something in the containers and writing my symbols or my incantations over the containers so that they're stored, wrapped in those words, in that energy. So, I mean, and then in terms of making the dish, understanding each individual ingredient and really tapping into each individual ingredient as to what is the energy of this ingredient and where does that apply to my life, right? So if we're going to use the potatoes, for example, those are for grounding, especially now at the holidays. I think this is really interesting because we've been talking about this throughout this conversation, is how we all feel a little overwhelmed and it can get a little nuts. Potatoes are the perfect food to bring you back down to earth, to put you in this present moment, and to keep your feet planted while the world is spinning around you. So knowing that while you're squeezing the water out of these potatoes, visualize yourself being grounded, visualize your, roots going from your feet into the ground. And then similarly, whatever the other ingredients are, figure out what they are, figure out what those, innate energetic qualities are, and spend time with each ingredient as you're making the dish. That's where I would begin with that process. And then once you do that sort of thing, it becomes second nature. So then the next time you use potatoes in something, or the next time you use chicken broth in something, you're going to think, oh, right, this is for, this thing is for this. Oh, maybe I should take a second. Oh, right, grounding. Oh, right, friendship. Oh, right, prosperity. And you're automatically clicking that switch on, which is automatically amping up the spiritual nutrition as you would in whatever you're making. I hope that answered the question.
We had somebody respond, say, I also think the ingredients that you grow and care for is a big deal because you have that connection and gratitude for them you can't have from a store.
100%.
Yeah.
100% agree. I'm a kitchen witch. I'm not a garden witch. And every time I try to grow food items, they die terribly, like terribly. And I just think that's because I don't have the ability to be out there tending a garden all the time. And also there's a weird fungus in my yard that I can't seem to get rid of.
Oh no, that's awful.
I've had people, I've had arborists come and look and be like, it's really nothing to do with these two ginormous apple trees in my backyard that have this fungus. And I'd have to cut them down, and I refuse. But this is why it's so important when I say eat as close to earth as possible. If you're able to grow your own food or portions of your own food, not only is it a skill that's very important, especially right now as we're dealing with all kinds of food shortages and climate change issues, but spiritually, these things are still vibrating, right? The closer they are to alive. Again, we're coming back to potatoes because I'm a potato-aholic and it's the holidays and that's all I want right now. When I go to my local farm, right, and I do try to shop as local as possible and I only go to the grocery store when I really have to, and I'm looking at the big bins of fresh potatoes that they've just dug up from the back, I find the dirtiest ones. The more covered in dirt, the more they smell like the earth. I will literally hold them up to my face. I'm like, this one doesn't smell enough like dirt. This one does. Like, that's how I'm
sniffer.
Right. I'm a potato sniffer for sure. Because these are the things that they're still vibrating with life. If you bought a potato that was harvested halfway around the world and then sat on a truck and then sat on a shelf and then sat under fluorescent lights, by the time you get it to your home, it's been out of the earth for weeks at that time, So this is really an important part of my brand of kitchen witchcraft. For sure. Absolutely.
Excellent response.
I love that.
We have another question as well. Someone wrote, one of the gifts from my working class Polish ancestors is to make everything you can ahead of time. Or again, maybe this isn't a question, but a comment. Everything ahead of time. Prep the turkey the night before, set the table, etc. If you don't, I'm assuming that says if you don't have cats or dogs, in my case. That way you are working. That way, if you are working, when you get to rest and spend time with family, and Thanksgiving feels like a holiday and not a crazy stressful day. I'm also a big fan of prepping as much as possible so that I can be present,
Agreed. Agreed.
I love that you said that you love potatoes, because I'm also I love all things.
I love
potato.
potatoes.
What are some of Dawn's favorite holiday foods?
Oh, so this is rough, right? So for those of you that don't know me, I have celiac disease, so I can't eat gluten or wheat or anything.
Yay! So do I. I knew we were soulmates.
It's the worst. Well, now because of my celiac, I no longer can digest cow's milk dairy. So that's the worst. Commercially raised cows eat wheat and barley and other types of grains. And so through the enzymes in their milk, my body has decided, nope, we can't digest that. And I'm also having issues with sugar. So these are just because you really all needed to know about my health. Okay. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge when you have food allergies, when you have sensitivities, things that you can't enjoy that you do enjoy. And then you kind of have to tune new things and whatever. But potatoes, I'm good. I'm always good with potatoes. So my favorite holiday foods, or again, I don't want to say holiday foods. I do things very seasonally, right? So I start eating holiday foods as soon as the weather turns cool. Like it's September and I'm like, I want sweet potatoes and a roasted chicken and where are the Brussels sprouts? And like, I go crazy for that sort of thing. So, I mean, I put cinnamon on pretty much everything. I'm going to say if something is cinnamony, then I'm in for it. I'm much more of a cinnamony person than a chocolatey person. People say, oh, cookies and candy around the holidays. Not me. I want cinnamon and pumpkin. I love potatoes in any way, shape, or form. Roasted potatoes are probably my favorite. I would have normally said mashed potatoes, but now I can't have the milk. I do dig a baked potato from time to time. I really enjoy roasted Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts in any capacity, if I'm being honest, like with bacon, roasted with garlic.
I love them.
Right?
They're my
Brussels sprouts were just like little balls of farts, but they're not. They're just
I love the farts.
It's because
that would be how I would describe them. Yes, Dawn. Thank you. That is exactly how I would describe Brussels sprouts.
They're so good, and they're all grew up food. Okay,
Yeah,
I would like everybody to know this. Brussels sprouts are baby cabbages. They're little tiny cabbages. So they have the same magical properties as big cabbages, as leafy greens. They are filled with not just prosperity, but particularly money magic and wealth magic. So if you make, I just posted this recipe for Brussels sprouts with bacon. Bacon is another one of these wealth foods, right? If you think of the phrase, bring home the bacon, historically, bacon was something that only the royalty would eat because pigs are the only animals that only were only raised for meat, right? Where cows were raised for milk and chickens were raised for eggs. Pigs were raised only for their meat. So this is historically, yeah. They've always been raised for meat. So only royalty and aristocracy would eat pork. So
Queen pig.
Isn't that a thing? Don't you have like isn't that a thing?
Yes, that's our thing. That's my language. That's our language.
I remember.
That's our love language.
So if you're going to cook your Brussels sprouts, which are, I just cracked Courtney up. I killed her. If you're going to cook your Brussels sprouts, which are a money food, with bacon and maybe some garlic, you're protecting all of your money magic. You're protecting all of your wealth.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
Well,
and it's fucking delicious. So
it's delicious. People, I feel like Brussels sprouts got a bad rap because the thing is like, it's because so many of us, I feel like had them poorly, like where they're just boiled. It's like, here's some boiled Brussels sprouts. Like, what?
There's a bitterness in them that if you don't open the bottom of the stalk, the bitterness stays inside. So either you need to like do a crisscross on it or split it open.
Yes.
And then
I like cut them open and then like roast them because like the first time I had Brussels sprouts done like amazingly, I was like, what? This is so, I mean, like I could eat them all day. And so it's like, it was an eye opener for me. Cause I also was like, I was like, ew, fucking gross. Like, because if you boil them, they reek, they taste terrible. If you don't cut them, it's like, I had them prepared. Like I think so many people did where it was like not well. But I think that's true for a lot of foods. Like that's why I think cooking is so magical, not just in what we infuse in there, but we get to create. It's like so creative, right? It's such a creative process. And so, yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm also team Brussels sprout, and I saw you post that and I was like, oh, it looks so good. I may or may not have been stoned when I saw that. So I was like, oh my God, I'm starving. And that's all I want.
They're really, really good. And one point I want to make, and I don't know how much time we have left, but one point I want to make, we're talking about the Brussels sprouts in particular. And we're talking about the holidays, and we're talking about complicated relationships around the holidays. As a witch, sometimes it's difficult to go hang out with your non-witch family, right? Sometimes it's hard when perhaps you are recovering Catholic, as am I, and you have to go to your very, very Catholic right-wing family home for the holidays out of obligation. Food and food magic is a way of sharing who you are, what you do, what you believe in a non-threatening way with those other people who don't necessarily see eye to eye with you. Being able to make something with intention, with seasonal ingredients, with visualization, with gratitude and compassion, and being able to share that and come together with others who you don't necessarily see eye to eye with, celebrating basically two separate holidays and being able to enjoy that together, sharing that meal, is creating connectivity and common ground. So I would like, as we go into the holiday season, that as witches, as pagans, as spiritual people, that maybe we start thinking about these things and looking at food a little bit differently when it is set between us and someone who maybe we don't enjoy.
I think that's incredibly helpful, especially since I don't enjoy really more than like 3 people. So, that is always sound advice for me, especially around the holidays.
I won't even be there at your Thanksgiving. So now you're down to like 2 people.
This is what I'm saying. So I think that that's important. And I think that you cannot undervalue the importance and the remembering about self-care, especially during the holidays. And so I really love that one of the things that you were talking about was that you're so looking forward to spending time with friends and family, and that you are trying to, you're making things that you can heat, that you've made ahead of time. So you still have the love, you still have the energy that's poured into it, but you're not having to do that while you're having to ignore your guests and not be able to hang out with the people that you love during, a time of gathering. And I think that, as a fellow control freak, I can say that, that's not easy. It seems like a very simple thing. It's not easy to let go of a tradition of spending the entire day sweating in the kitchen, when that's what you've always done. And I had a very difficult holiday season last year, and I just kind of threw my hands in the air and was like, you know what, I'm going to do the motions, and I'm going to get through the things, and I'm going to get through this holiday season. And so I dialed way back on all the things that I would have traditionally done. And I have to tell you, it was one of the more ironically enjoyable holidays I've ever had. And my children had a blast. They had a wonderful time. they didn't know. I don't know. They didn't notice or they didn't care. They were completely unbothered by the fact that I hadn't done all of the things that we usually done. I hadn't planned all of the things that I would have usually planned. And I kind of scaled back on, I still cooked way too much food, but it was less way too much food than it usually was. And they still had a wonderful time. And so I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves that a lot of that pressure and a lot of that stuff that we've put on ourselves is things that we literally have put on ourselves, that the people who love us are going to enjoy it just the same, even if we do it in a way that is more pleasant and healthier for us.
Absolutely.
We had one more question that one of our Patreon members who wasn't able to attend asked us to ask you, Dawn. We talk about infusing food with love and good intentions, but sometimes we have to make food when we're mad. How do y'all keep the anger out of the food?
First and foremost, fucking breathe. Okay. That's the first thing. We all have had the experience of getting home from work or fighting traffic or having an argument with someone in our household. And then we have to put together a meal, whether it is for ourselves or others, or, whatever the case may be, even if you're throwing something in the microwave, right? I mean, we've all had that experience. And it's not pleasant. And the food always comes out. There's always something wrong. You burn something or it doesn't taste right. Or later on in the day, you find you have a stomach ache, whatever the case may be. First and foremost, breathe. Because what you're about to do, even if you are just microwaving something, the act of putting together food, preparing food, and eating food is sacred. So you and again, grounding in gratitude and the moment, and being able to say, okay, I'm angry at this thing, or I'm angry at this person, or I'm pissed off because this horrible thing happened, or I'm sad about this thing. I need to be able to take a breath. I like to wash my hands, which seems something you would do anyway before you cook. Right? Before you do anything in the kitchen, generally most people wash their hands, but I take that second to wash my hands and think about washing the day away, or washing away any of that negativity, so that I can clear my head for a minute. So in the 30 seconds I'm washing my hands, I'm going to take a breath. I see someone said, maybe put music and incense help shift the mood. Absolutely, 100%. That absolutely will help. Sometimes you don't have the time or energy or even thought process of, let me light a candle, let me put on music, let me do that. I don't have physical human babies. I have cat babies, but I imagine that people that have children might get into this frustrated sense where the baby's screaming and the husband just got home and the mother-in-law is wash your hands, take a breath. Food is sacred, right? There are bajillion people on this planet that don't have that food. So ground yourself in gratitude because you have food. So you want to be pissed off because some asshole cut you off in traffic. That's fine. Leave it in the car. Bring your focus to the food. Bring your focus to the kitchen. This energy, whatever energy you're going to put in your food, you're physically taking that into your body. You're physically putting it into the bodies of people that are eating the food that you made. Right? Do you want to feed your kid a load of pissed off at a load of road rage? Like, do you want to feed your kid that? Probably not.
Feed your kid a load of road rage.
You probably.
I'm looking at Kanani as I say.
Right?
I'm like, are we talking about how many times have we done this? I don't understand. Like, I mean, yes, of course.
Right? So listen, it's easy to say these things. It's harder to do these things. But maybe now that I've said it, if it happens to you, you'll go, well, think about this for a minute. That's the best we can hope for out of a conversation like this, is simply that maybe those light switches will turn on for you, or maybe you'll think twice about the next time you're in a bad mood while you're cooking and go, hang on a second, that crazy kitchen witch said I should wash my hands. I'm just going to wash my hands and take a deep breath before I continue on. That's my answer to that question.
I love that. I think that's fantastic advice. I see a lot of angry hand washing in my future. I think that might be a new go-to for me.
This is Kanani. Motherfucking shit.
Damn it. I'm so fucking tired of this shit.
Oh,
yeah. Accurate.
I like this.
We had somebody.
And you know what? And now I may even use this for my children when they start bitching at each other. Be like, you know what? Both of you to the bathrooms. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. Until you've calmed down, you have to sit there and compulsively wash your hands. I like this. It's cold and flu season. I'm here for this.
Somebody just said Dawn is a magical Gordon Ramsay. The passion in her words is the same energy. I'm going to flip that and say Gordon Ramsay is the non-magical Dawn Hunt.
You know,
like this.
Side note, I cooked for Gordon Ramsay.
Stop it. Did you really?
I did. I was on MasterChef season 4.
What?
Yes.
Know that?
You know that?
How did we not know this?
It's
Yeah. And I only made it to the top 100 cooks in the country. And the producers wanted me to exploit my religion. And they were like, well, can you wear a witch hat or can you carry a skull? Can you? And I was like, no. I'm like, the fact that I'm a witch has no bearing on whether or not I'm a good cook. And they were like, well, we want you to have a strong identity when you meet Mr. Ramsay. And I was like, yeah, trust me, I got a strong enough identity. Fuck y'all. And then Gordon Ramsay told me, I'm sorry, darling, it's too much garlic. And I was like, what the fuck do you know? You're British.
There's such fucking
There's
thing.
no such thing as too much garlic.
I always suspected. I always wondered. He's a vampire because there's no such thing as too much fucking garlic. It's not
he's also really tall and really,
he's
really
super tall. I have a friend that's done makeup for him.
Yeah, he's really tall. Like I hugged him and my eye came up to like about where his nipple would be. So I was like, I was
a vampire.
Like, enormous. Like
not
really,
lie, that's kind of hot.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you're into, Kanani. No judgment.
Tall is not a bad thing.
Oh no, I thought you meant like being yelled at in a British accent.
Oh fuck no! Oh no, that gets you punched in the throat and kicked in the nuts. That's that's not what's hot.
No judgment. No judgment. He's got a frying pan in one hand, wooden spoon in the other.
You have to be kind of tall for me to think that guy's tall. You know.
I see. I understand.
I love that you were on that show. That is so cool. That is just every time we get to talk to you, I feel like we just learn about how much cooler you were even more than we thought you were. And we already like fangirl all over you.
And now we have proof that Gordon Ramsay is a vampire. Now we know.
Now we know Gordon Ramsay's a vampire. I mean, I always suspected, but now I feel like that is confirmation. To call something too garlicky, that's not a real thing.
Please.
It's not true.
Please. He's British. They boil everything.
They're not
no
good
offense to my Brits. I love my Brits.
But it's true.
I love this so much. So let me ask you this then, because you kind of talked about how you love to make cookies and you love to bake cookies for Christmas and for the holidays. What is your go-to Thanksgiving dessert?
Oh, grandma's pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
Grandma's pumpkin pie. I used to so before my grandmother passed away, I was trying to recreate her pumpkin pie recipe and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And then after she passed away, for Christmas one year, my mother, who we don't speak of, she gave me like a whole little notebook of all handwritten recipes from my grandmother. And she's like, I don't know what's in here. She's like, I don't know what's in here, but you should have it. And I was like, okay. And in there, it's like she used to write everything in pencil, right? And in cursive, because when you grew up in the 30s and 40s, you wrote in cursive. And she wrote, and so it's like this little faded thing and it's folded and it says pumpkin pie. And I was like, ah. And it doesn't use condensed milk, which every pumpkin pie recipe uses condensed milk. This one actually starts with real milk and you condense it yourself. So you boil it down yourself. And then I'll roast a sugar pumpkin. I won't use a canned pumpkin. This year I'm going to use a canned pumpkin because I'm giving myself a break. It's perfectly fine. But Thanksgiving dessert is going to be grandma's pumpkin pie. Oh, I mean, I'm going to make an apple pie. I'm probably going to make some brownies too, because everybody wants something chocolate. But for me, grandma's pumpkin pie, and I'm a little tiny sliver. I'm going to try it with oat milk this year. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited.
You know, when I did my grandmother's pumpkin pie for somebody who had a gluten and dairy allergy, I used vanilla almond milk thickened with a little bit of cornstarch. Mm-hmm. And it did mean I needed to reduce the sugar in the basic recipe. Yep. But yeah, that's what I did instead. It turned out really good.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to trying it with the oat milk. I find the oat milk, it's very creamy. So I have someone coming who has an almond allergy, so I have to stay away from the almond milk. But I'm excited to see what comes out. And if it doesn't come out good, I still have an apple pie as backup. So I'm not really that worried about it. But that for sure that will be my indulgence on Thanksgiving. 100%.
I love that. One of my favorites, I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with my father's side of the family were all from the South. And so to me, Thanksgiving is just ridiculous abundance because I remember that there was always 4 of everything, right? There was never something. There was 4 of something. And so there was turkey, there was ham, and there was a fish. And then there was 4 different kinds of stuffing. And then there's 3 different types of potatoes. And then there's 2 different salads. And then there's 6 different sides. Right. And then there's croissants and biscuits and rolls. And then I remember my grandparents had a station wagon, and it would be very, very cold there in the winter. And so essentially the garage was treated as an ice box. And so they had a giant station wagon, and the station wagon would be covered in pies because it was so cold. It was like a refrigerator. Yeah. And so they would treat the garage like a refrigerator, and the station wagon hood was just covered in pies. Yes. And there was like every pie you could possibly think of that she had been making for weeks up until Thanksgiving. And when she did it, it was all homemade. And so I still kind of mimic that experience to a much lesser degree, but like I always make turkey and ham. And then I usually have 3 different kinds of stuffing. And then I usually have 2 different kinds of potatoes. And then I have, so I kind of like, I do that, but to like a slightly rational level. Yes. I don't have 3 ovens like she had 3 ovens, I
tend to make everything in 3s. This is the first year that I'm not doing that. Like if and 3 is just a power number, obviously. If I'm going to have like a dinner party or something, I tend to make 3 types of appetizers, 3 types of main dishes, 3 types of sides, and then 3 desserts. This year, I'm not doing that, and it feels very uncomfortable to me. So I'll let you know how that goes, because it feels very uncomfortable to kind of break with my own mental OCD traditions of I got to do everything in 3s. But again, I think that we have to adjust, right? We have to allow ourselves to give ourselves what we need, as well as being able to give to our guests and our loved ones. It's important both ways, for sure.
And like you said, we have to realize that these are our things, right? This is our internal crazy clock.
It's totally
this is not anyone else's. No one else's experience is going to be lessened because we aren't following through on our own internal crazy.
Yes.
And so, no, I agree. I think it sounds wonderful, and I'm really excited for you. It sounds like you're going to there's not one of us here who wouldn't love to be eating the foods that you're creating. So
come on over.
No one is going to be disappointed. And I think that it sounds amazing.
Plenty.
I love it so much. And I love it that it's pumpkin pie. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The holidays and pumpkin pie is just like, that's
Christmas. At Christmas, I try to always like make dinner for Yule, just for us, and then we have to do a lot of traveling for an obligation for family to travel back and forth to New York, which is stressful in its own right. And again, because of my food allergies, I don't always get to enjoy the things on those days. But our traditions for like the week of Christmas, or when we're going to celebrate and we're going to open presents, there's a lot of coffee. There's a lot of coffee. We always drink that winter brew coffee that I make. And then my husband makes these fancy lattes. He makes like foamed different kinds of milk and puts chocolate in them and everything. But our thing has become that whatever day we're celebrating Christmas, we do Italian cold cuts. So we do sandwiches, we do chips and dip, and like Star Wars. Like that's what we do. We watch Star Wars, we eat Italian sandwiches, we eat chips and dip, and that's like the whole day. And it is literally the best day of the year. We'll pick something from the Star Wars world and just start wherever it is in the saga and just watch for, 8 hours straight. It's the best.
I love that. That sounds phenomenal. That also sounds like an amazing, amazing day. What's coming up from you? What can people expect? What's new? What's happening? Where can people find you and fangirl all over you like we do?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Cucina Aurora. You can follow me on Facebook at Cucina Aurora Food. I am on TikTok at Cucina Aurora Kitchwitch, but I'm hardly ever on TikTok because I hate it and I think it's the bane of existence. But you can find everything you want to know about me and all the links to all the social media at the website, which is just cucinaaurora.com. CucinaAurora.com. And what's going to come out in the next year or so, like what I'm working on in the next year, I'm bringing in sweet basil tomato marinara that will be available soon in December. And then probably in the spring, we'll have a hot pepper marinara, which is Courtney's jumping out of her seat. We will be, for those of you who had it last year, our porcini truffle and porcini mushroom and white truffle olive oil will be back in stock for about a minute around Black Friday. Really exciting. If you want to get the first, FYI, if you want to get the first dibs on that, make sure that you're on our mailing list. So go to the website at cucinaaurora.com and get on the mailing list, because you'll be the first one to know when it's available before we advertise it to everyone else. The other big news that I have, and you heard it here first on That Witch Life, is that I just got a deal to make an Oracle deck. So
oh my God, that's so amazing.
Thank you. We signed the contracts like last week. I'm working with an amazing publisher out of New York City and an incredible young woman illustrator who's going to be doing all the artwork. And the Oracle deck is a Culinary Witches Oracle deck. So basically, you're going to pull a card and it's going to give you a food item. What does this food mean? Where you need this energy in your life. And then, oh, by the way, here's a bunch of recipes or a couple of ideas you can use this food so you can really practically, use this deck. And instead of like, oh, I pulled this card from an Oracle deck and now I just need to sit here and think about it and I'm going to journal about it and I'm not really sure. You can literally be like, oh, I pulled apples from this deck. Maybe I'm going to go make a batch of applesauce and eat it all week so that I can have the energy of, apples in my life. So I
love this so much.
Thank you. I'm so excited. It's something I've been trying to make happen for many, many years. And my manuscript is due in the spring. So I'm really excited about it. Really, really excited about that. And you're hearing it here first. I haven't even announced it on my own platforms.
Oh my God. We love you. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
That is so exciting. And that's so practical because people can see food and they relate to it. You know what I mean? That's the thing with Oracle decks that can make them difficult, is whether or not when you see it, you can respond and how you respond. That's such a universally powerful tool and avenue to use to connect with people. I think that is absolutely exciting.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for everybody who joined us today and for everyone who's going to be watching this and listening to this later. Definitely find Dawn at cucinaaurora.com. You are going to want to try all of her products. You're going to want to gift them to your friends, people you love, because they make tremendous gifts. The three of us actually literally buy these for friends and family every year. It's how we buy love. It's what we do
every year.
So thank you all for being here, and we hope you enjoy your holiday.
You're the best. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Everybody, thanks for coming. I hope everyone has a beautiful Thanksgiving and a very joyous Yule season. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to That Witch Life podcast. Our music is by Dustin Schultz, editing by Corey Drake. If you like what we do, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the show, you can buy us a coffee or check out our merch on our Etsy store, or join us on Patreon for bonus content, ad-free episodes, or to join our Witch Squad. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For show notes, audio transcript, or to ask us a question to answer on a future episode, go to thatwitchlife.com. Until then, keep moding that shit. We will talk to you next week.
So mote it be.